Imagine this, a small Appalachian town where neighbors know each other by name, where gossip travels faster than the wind through the mountains, and where tragedy has a way of shaking the very soil beneath people's feet. In this quiet corner of Kentucky, a mystery unfolded, one so haunting, so heart-wrenching that it has left scars across an entire community. Before we begin unraveling this story, let me pause for a moment. If you're new here, welcome. We dive deep into the cases others only skim the surface of. Stories that demand answers, stories that deserve to be remembered. So hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and stay with us. Because once you hear the story of young Jaden Spicer, you will never forget his name. Jaden was only 10 years old. 10. A child who should have been riding bikes, laughing at cartoons, and running through fields without a care in the world. Instead, his short life came to a chilling end. He went missing one summer morning, sparking desperate searches across Jackson, Kentucky, only for his body to be discovered a week later, hidden in a shallow grave. But the most shocking twist? The people sworn to love and protect him, his very own mother and stepfather, now stand accused of betraying him in the most unimaginable way. When Jaden first disappeared, the town rallied. Drones hovered over forests, helicopters circled over cornfields, and sonar searched nearby waters. Everyone wanted to believe he was out there somewhere, scared but alive, waiting to be brought home. His mother, Felicia Gross, wrote a handwritten plea, begging for his safe return. Her words were raw, desperate. "We love Jaden and want him safe at home. Please pray for us." On the surface, it looked like the cry of a grieving mother. But behind those words, authorities would later uncover a web of lies. Think about that for a moment. What must it feel like to watch a parent plead for their missing child, knowing later that they may have held the answers all along? Was it guilt that guided her pen, or a calculated attempt to deflect suspicion? The last time Felicia and her husband, Josh Gross, claimed to have seen Jaden was on the night of August 5th. They said they tucked him in, went to bed, and awoke the next morning to an empty room. Just like that, he was gone. But their story didn't sit right with everyone. Among those who felt something was off were Fred and Sheila McCoy, two YouTubers known for documenting Appalachian history and true crime cases. They drove out to Jackson to help search, recording every step of their journey. What they found, and what they sensed, would later prove eerily accurate. When Fred and Sheila approached the Gross family's home, they expected to find two devastated parents. Instead, they found silence. Trash littered the yard, dogs barked without attention, and the atmosphere felt wrong. Felicia and Josh eventually came outside, but their reactions were chillingly detached. No tears, no panic, just blank stares and evasive answers. When asked about their missing son, they acted not like frantic parents, but like people with something to hide. Isn't that strange? Imagine your child missing, strangers knocking at your door offering help, and instead of clinging to hope, you brush them off, guarded, even annoyed. Why? The McCoys noticed more unsettling details. Felicia wouldn't look Sheila in the eye, as if the gaze of another mother pierced too deep. Josh repeatedly mentioned having a lawyer, cutting off questions, shutting down conversation. At one point, Felicia even invited them to search all you want. That confidence. Was it genuine innocence or arrogance born from believing no one would uncover the truth? Days later, police received new information that led them to a wooded area half an hour south of Jackson. There, buried in a shallow grave, they found Jaden's body, stuffed inside a plastic tote, hidden like something disposable. The discovery was devastating. The town's fragile hope shattered. And suddenly, Felicia's pleas, her tears, her public face, took on a far darker meaning. At first, Felicia was charged with manslaughter. According to her initial confession, she had given Jaden a sleep medication the night he vanished. She claimed he suffered some kind of medical emergency, that it was an accident. But instead of calling for help, imagine that, a 10-year-old gasping for life, she panicked. She hid his body. She even admitted to coaching Jaden's siblings, telling them to lie, to protect the story. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's another to cover it up with lies, dragging innocent children into the deception. What does that say about the mindset of someone who could look at their own flesh and blood, lifeless, and choose secrecy over seeking help? But the case didn't stop there. As investigators dug deeper, the truth grew even darker. Felicia's husband, Josh Gross, wasn't just a bystander. He too was arrested, charged with complicity to murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, and coaching witnesses. Prosecutors allege he knew about the medication, the lies, the cover-up. He stood by, protecting not Jaden, but Felicia. The courtroom erupted with tension as Felicia's charges were upgraded to murder. Prosecutors spoke with fire in their voices, declaring that Jaden got less than he deserved in life. but that they would give everything they had in theirs to bring him justice. Pause for a moment and picture Jaden's life before all of this. After his grandmother's death, the woman who had raised him, he was placed in the care of Felicia and Josh, a child already grieving, already fragile, now in the hands of people who would fail him in the worst possible way. Was his grandmother his safe haven? Did he ever cry himself to sleep, missing her warmth, sensing deep down that the new home he had been placed in was not safe? Fred and Sheila, reflecting on their encounter, described Felicia's demeanor as blank, carefree. No grief, no urgency, just indifference. They told her as they left, "We're going to find that boy." And yet, she said nothing, not even a tear. That silence speaks louder than words. The community couldn't stop asking the same haunting questions. Could Jaden still have been alive when he was placed in that tote? Was he sedated so heavily he seemed dead, only to wake up buried in darkness, gasping for air, his cries unheard? Forensic investigators will search his lungs for traces of dirt to answer that terrible question. But the very thought is enough to freeze your blood. This case is more than just a crime story. It's a mirror reflecting society's failures. The systems that should have protected Jaden, the people who should have stepped in sooner, the red flags ignored. How does a 10-year-old boy slip through the cracks so many times that his only fate is a shallow grave in the woods? And yet, in the midst of sorrow, there's a determination rising from the ashes. Prosecutors, investigators, and community members are united now by one promise: Jaden will not be forgotten. His short life will not be erased by the lies of those who failed him. But this story isn't over, because as the charges unfold, as the trials approach, new revelations will surface about the night Jaden died, about the people who knew more than they admitted, and about the chilling details of what really happened inside that Kentucky home. And that's where we'll continue in the second part of this deep dive. The McCoys, Fred and Sheila, couldn't shake the images from their minds. The trash-strewn yard, the guarded stairs, the strange lack of urgency from the people who should have been frantic. And then came the discovery that still chills them: a bag near the Gross home filled with Jaden's clothes. At first they thought it was evidence, something abandoned by accident. Some suggested it might have been a scent bag for tracking dogs. But why were the clothes still sealed, untouched, as if they had never been used? Why underwear, shirts, shoes, all bundled together, abandoned like afterthoughts? It didn't feel like police evidence. It felt like a breadcrumb, left behind by something darker. They followed footprints, small ones pressed into soft dirt, leading up a hill. 2 impressions, as if Jaden himself had walked or been led there. The tracks vanished in the brush, swallowed by the wild Appalachian landscape. Did they belong to Jaden in his final hours? Or were they something else entirely? A cruel coincidence in a case already tangled in lies. What they did know was this: the scene around the Gross home didn't feel like a place where desperate parents were waiting for their child to return. It felt like the aftermath of something hidden, something carefully managed. Felicia and Josh's behavior confirmed that unease. Josh insisted they had lawyers. Felicia's eyes carried no grief, only a blank stare. When Sheila, a mother herself, looked into Felicia's face, she saw nothing but emptiness. That void is perhaps the most terrifying part of all, because behind that emptiness lay decisions no parent should ever make. When police questioned Felicia, she admitted to giving Jaden a sleep medication, something meant to quiet him down for the night. But the dose, the context, the intent, those remain at the heart of the case. Felicia told investigators Jaden suffered a medical emergency. Instead of dialing 911, she hid his body in a plastic tote and drove him 30 minutes away to bury him. She allegedly even instructed Jaden's siblings, other innocent children, to lie to investigators about what happened. She twisted their voices into shields for her own guilt. Think about that. What kind of mind, faced with the death of a child, your own child, chooses not to seek help, not to scream for an ambulance, but to hide the evidence, to orchestrate a cover-up, to pull siblings into the deception? This wasn't panic alone. This was calculation. And Josh Gross, he wasn't just an observer. According to prosecutors, he knew Jaden had been given that sleep medication. He knew about the lies, he knew about the body, and he helped cover it all. He now faces charges of complicity to murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, and influencing witnesses. His bond was set at $1 million. In court, he appeared hollow, another figure wrapped in silence. But the silence surrounding Jaden's case has been broken by voices like the prosecutors, who stood in front of cameras and declared, in Jaden's short life, he got less than he deserved. So we will give him everything we've got in ours. Those words cut through the static of lies, reminding everyone that this isn't just another true crime headline. It's a child's story. A child who never had the chance to grow old. who trusted the very people now accused of ending his life. Fred and Sheila reflected on something even darker. What if Jaden wasn't dead when Felicia placed him in that tote? What if he was unconscious, sedated, but still breathing? Could he have woken in the suffocating darkness of plastic and soil, clawing at the air, his cries unheard beneath the weight of earth? Forensic investigators will seek the answer by examining his lungs for dirt. But even the possibility is enough to tear the heart apart. Jaden's story is not just a tragedy, it's a failure of systems. After his grandmother passed away, custody shifted to Felicia and Josh. But was anyone watching? Did anyone check if this household was safe? Did anyone notice the warning signs, the instability, the neglect, the potential for abuse? Too often, children like Jaden are left unseen, their pain hidden behind closed doors until it's too late. As the investigation deepened, the McCoys went to the place where Jaden's body was found, a remote field near a cornfield and an old cemetery. Their surgical gloves lay discarded on the ground, silent relics of the grim work that followed his discovery. The soil was hard, unyielding. Could Felicia have buried her son alone? Or did Josh or perhaps someone else help carry out this grim task? Fred, with decades of law enforcement experience, said it plainly. She didn't do this alone, and that is perhaps the most haunting question of all. How many people knew? How many stood silent while Jaden suffered? In court, Felicia and Josh will face their charges. The evidence, the confession, the lies, the physical proof will be laid bare. But no matter what verdicts are reached, the deeper wound remains. A boy betrayed not just by individuals but by the world around him. Jaden's photos show a smiling child with tired eyes. In his grandmother's care, he looked healthier, safer, loved. After her passing, the light dimmed. He lost weight. He grew pale. He bore the signs of a child in distress. And yet, no one intervened. Fred and Sheila put it bluntly. The system failed him. They sent him to his death sentence. Those words echo, not just for Jaden, but for every child caught in the cracks of bureaucracy, shuffled into unsafe hands, unseen until tragedy strikes. And so, we are left with the story of a boy who deserved so much more. A story of a community that searched desperately, of strangers who knocked on doors, of investigators who followed the trail of lies to a shallow grave. A story of a mother and stepfather now facing the weight of justice, and of siblings forever scarred by secrets they were forced to keep. But perhaps most importantly, this is a story about us, about the questions we must all ask. How many children right now are slipping through the same cracks Jaden did? How many are living unseen, unheard in homes where love is replaced by neglect, where innocence is slowly stolen away? And what can we do as neighbors, as communities, as human beings, to ensure no child is left to suffer alone? Jaden Spicer should have been more than a headline. He should have been more than a case file, more than evidence bags and courtroom testimony. He should have been a boy riding his bike through Jackson, laughing with friends, growing into a man. Instead, we tell his story here, not to sensationalize his death, but to give weight to his life, to make sure that even in death, he is not invisible. And so I ask you, as you watch this, not just to hear this story, but to carry it with you, share it, speak Jaden's name. Ask the hard questions about the systems meant to protect children and hold accountable those who fail them. Because silence is complicity, and silence is exactly what allowed this tragedy to unfold. In the end, Jaden's voice was taken from him, but ours remains, and with it we can demand better. So what do you think? Was this the act of panic or something more sinister? Was Felicia's story about sleep medication a desperate excuse or a calculated cover? And how deep does Josh's involvement truly go? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If you believe Jaden's story deserves to be heard, please share this video. And if you want to continue uncovering the truth behind cases like his, stories that reveal not just crime, but the fragile threads of our society, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Together we can shine a light into the darkest corners. Because justice for Jaden isn't just about a courtroom verdict, it's about never letting his story be forgotten.